Welcome to the 2020-2022 Grow Your Own video series. If you haven't already, please watch the Grow Your Own general overview video first to get a better understanding of the full grant program. This video covers Pathway 3, support for year-long clinical teacher training and intensive pre-service teacher training. In this video, we will take a deep dive into Pathway 3 regarding purpose, funding, and eligibility. We will also provide considerations for the application process. You can use the left bar menu to navigate to specific sections of this video. Pathway 3 offers stipends to support teacher candidates in a year-long clinical teaching assignment and intensive pre-service experience. This fosters deep partnerships between educator preparation programs and school districts through which teacher candidates can develop the skills, knowledge, and mindsets critical to success in each unique school context. This pathway is intended to better support and prepare diverse teacher candidates who have stated a desire to serve in rural schools and/or hard-to-staff roles in the long term. Pathway 3 offers two models, a year-long clinical experience model and an intensive pre-service training model. Applicants can select one or both of the two models when they apply. A year-long clinical teaching residency is defined in Texas statute. An intensive pre-service training model is described in a supplementary document on the Grants Opportunities page. Both are summarized in the RFA program guidelines. There is a maximum of 10 candidates that may be placed within each partner LEA, inclusive of both models. One LEA cannot have 10 intensive pre-service candidates and 10 year-long clinical candidates. It can have 10 candidates total. In the year-long clinical experience model, which we are calling Pathway 3A, stipend recipients are teacher candidates currently enrolled in a multi-year educator preparation program who have met the prerequisites of their EPP to serve in a year-long clinical teaching assignment in the 2020-2021 academic year or 2021-2022 academic year. This assignment will be a minimum of 28 weeks and is traditionally an experience that college seniors undergo immediately prior to graduation with a degree and teaching certificate. To support the development of these teacher candidates, award amounts are up to $22,000 per candidate to complete this year-long clinical teaching assignment in rural and/or hard-to-staff positions. For this model, the EPP grantee must use the award to fund a $15,000 stipend for each teacher candidate. The grantee can also use up to, but not exceeding, $5,000 per candidate to fund the cost of field supervision, including contributing to a supervisor position employed by the applicant, but not positions outside of the EPP. The remaining $2,000 is available to cover administrative and indirect costs. For the intensive pre-service training model, which we are calling Pathway 3B, stipend recipients are teacher candidates who will be enrolled in an EPP with a minimum 4-week intensive pre-service training that includes a clinical component within those 4 weeks and with year-long support from the EPP while employed as a teacher of record during the 2020-2021 school year. To support the development of these teacher candidates, award amounts are up to $5,500 per teacher candidate. This is the maximum amount per candidate allowed for this model. Additional funds for field supervision are not allowed. For this model, the EPP grantee must use the award to fund a $5,000 stipend for each teacher candidate that can cover program costs, certification costs, and test prep. The remaining funds of $500 can be used for administrative and indirect costs. More specific criteria of who is eligible to participate as a candidate are listed on pages 10 through 11 of the RFA program guidelines. The grant period for Pathway 3 is now 2 years in Cycle 3. An EPP may have 2 cohorts of Pathway 3A candidates, one participating in the first year of the grant and another participating in the second year of the grant. An EPP may only have 1 cohort of Pathway 3B candidates participating in the first year of the grant. All candidates, regardless of cohort, must still be reported to TEA by May 15, 2020. Be sure they meet the listed eligibility requirements in the RFA. For this pathway, EPPs must designate in the application the partner LEAs in which they will place teacher candidates for training. EPPs cannot apply as a fiscal agent or member of a shared services agreement. In essence, EPPs will receive funds from TEA to fulfill the allowable costs. They can, if necessary, disperse a portion of these funds to the LEA for the allowable costs. In Cycle 3, not all educator preparation programs are eligible to apply for a Grow Your Own grant. The Texas Education Agency website publishes a list of EPP designations using the Accountability System for Educator Preparation Programs. These ASAP designations can be found at the link on this slide. Eligible applicants are EPPs that are accredited, accredited not rated, and accredited warned. That means EPPs that have an accredited probation status cannot apply. This is applicable to both the clinical year-long residency model as well as the intensive pre-service model. Also in Cycle 3, eligible EPPs may apply to support candidates with both models. They need not choose only one. In order for any EPP to offer intensive pre-service, it must be approved by TEA to do so. However, this approval can be obtained after the grant is awarded, but no later than April of 2020. Guidelines and further information for intensive pre-service is on the TEA Grants Opportunities page. We highly recommend applicants take the time to review the supplementary document. Each EPP may submit only one application within which they may name multiple partner LEAs. EPPs must apply on their own and cannot act as a fiscal agent for multiple EPPs within one application. In other words, one application equals one EPP and vice versa. Cycle 1 and Cycle 2 awardees are eligible to reapply but must designate new candidates. Cycle 3 awardees will also be eligible for the future Cycle 4 if they select new candidates at that time. Let's take a look at a few example funding requests for Pathway 3. In this scenario, an IHE with an EPP is partnering with 5 LEAs for a year-long clinical teaching experience. Remember, an EPP may apply with one application to work with multiple LEAs. This EPP will place 2 student teachers each within 3 of these 5 LEAs and will place 1 student teacher each within the other 2 LEAs. There is only one category that needs to be counted and calculated, which is the total number of student teachers participating in a year-long clinical teaching assignment. In this example, 8. Based on this scenario, this LEA would request $176,000 for Pathway 3. Additional requests for administrative or indirect costs on top of what is already built into the formula is not allowed. Let's take a look at a different example funding request for Pathway 3. In this scenario, an EPP is partnering with 5 LEAs for intensive pre-service training. Each of the 5 LEAs will have 2 teacher candidates that they will then hire as teachers of record for the 2020-2021 school year. There's only one category that needs to be counted and calculated, which is the total number of teachers participating in the intensive pre-service program. In this example, that is 10. Based on this scenario, this LEA would request $55,000 for Pathway 3. Additional requests for administrative or indirect costs on top of what is already built into the formula is also not allowed. Let's take a look at one last request, unique to Cycle 3. In this scenario, an EPP is partnering with 1 LEA. This EPP will train 5 intensive pre-service candidates and 5 year-long clinical candidates. Based on this scenario, this LEA would request $110,000 for Pathway 3A and $27,500 for Pathway 3B. This totals to $137,500 for Pathway 3. In 2019-2020, EPPs should establish a partnership with a formal memorandum of understanding with all partner LEAs. This will be submitted with your application. Let's review the timeline for Pathway 3A first. This applies to clinical candidates This applies to candidates already enrolled in an EPP, such as a traditional university program that has a final clinical teaching year. The EPP can have 2 cohorts of candidates, 1 for each grant year. In 2020-2021, the first cohort will start and complete their year-long assignment and obtain a standard teacher certification and graduate. This cohort will return to the LEA of teaching assignment as a full-time teacher during the 2021-2022 school year. The second cohort will complete the year-long clinical assignment in 2021-2022 and will serve as a full-time teacher of record beginning in the 2022-2023 school year. Now, let's review the timeline for Pathway 3B. This applies to candidates who will participate in an intensive pre-service model. In this model, the EPP should only have 1 cohort of candidates. By 2020, the applicant should have approval from TEA as an intensive pre-service provider. In the 2020-2021 school year, candidates should start and complete their pre-service training, be issued an intern certification, be hired as full-time teachers, and continue to receive year-long support. In the 2021-2022 school year, they should continue teaching as a full-time teacher of record and receive their standard certificate. All of these details are also outlined on page 18 of the RFA guidelines. Now let's move on to the application requirements. In this section, you will find helpful considerations for completing the application and attachment sections for Pathway 3 requests. Applicants must complete all sections of the grant application, as well as the required Pathway 3 attachment for the application to be deemed complete. We recommend watching the remainder of this video with the application attachment available for reference. The first section of the application is the needs assessment. The applicant should collaborate with each partner LEA to conduct a comprehensive needs assessment in alignment with the purpose of the Grow Your Own grant. Recall that the goals of the grant are to elevate the perception of the teaching profession, address teacher shortages, and increase the quality and diversity of the teacher workforce. The outcome of the comprehensive needs assessment process, the 3 identified needs, can then be included in page 2 of the application. Make sure that these are quantifiable such that numbers are involved. When conducting the comprehensive needs assessment in alignment with the grant goals, some data sources to consider include the number of teacher vacancies and applications per teacher vacancy, the diversity of the LEA and campus teaching staff in comparison to the diversity of the LEA and campus student population, and the degree to which clinical teaching and/or intensive pre-service training is cost prohibitive, either to candidates or to partner LEAs. For additional information about conducting a comprehensive needs assessment, please refer to page 40 of the General and Fiscal Guidelines. The applicant should also describe their plan for the development of a Pathway 3 program by articulating a plan that directly addresses each of the quantifiable needs on page 2 of the document. This section is worth 10 application points total. Next, the application asks to identify a SMART goal consistent with the purpose of the grant and 3 benchmarks for progress and implementation of the grant. This is on pages 2 to 3 of the application document. The SMART goal should align with the purpose of the grant, growing and recruiting qualified diverse teachers to the field. Ensure that your goal is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. For additional information regarding the development of SMART goals, please reference page 42 of the General and Fiscal Guidelines. Benchmarks are measurable short-term goals that indicate progress towards the SMART goal. For the purpose of the GYO grant, strong benchmarks would align to specific performance measures addressed in pages 24 through 25 of the RFA program guidelines, such as the number and demographics of student teachers participating, or % completion of the biannual TEA-developed survey of participant groups. If you are applying to support both clinical year-long candidates and intensive pre-service candidates, Review each of your goals and benchmarks to ensure they address both program models. These sections of the application are worth 10 points total. The next section asks applicants to address how they will use the required collection of program evaluation data to make adjustments and modify their programs to ensure that they reach their benchmarks and SMART goals. For additional information, see data collection requirements on pages 24 through 25 of the RFA program guidelines. When developing this plan, take into consideration the process you will use to collect the required data and the process you will implement to make adjustments to the plan as necessary. Also keep in mind how the EPP will monitor and address its ability to meet the needs of the partner LEA, including sharing responsibilities to support the teacher candidate. This section of the application is worth 5 points. The next section of the application are the statutory and program requirements. There are 5 program requirements total on pages 5 through 7 of the application document. The first one asks for applicants to describe the sustainability plan that addresses how the pipeline for diverse, well-trained teacher candidates who will teach in rural and hard-to-staff areas may continue beyond the timeline of grant funding. The plan should begin with action steps taken in the first year of grant funding and will demonstrate the ability to leverage and coordinate resources that increase the capacity of the EPP and partner LEAs to strengthen the local talent pipeline and make progress on local sustainability. This may also include the use of other state and federal resources and local resources, such as an advisory board, community partnerships, etc. This question is worth 5 points. The second program requirement asks for applicants to describe the plan to recruit interested candidates to the program. The plan must incorporate research-based best practices in equitable recruitment. The type of information we are looking for in this section include an equitable process for identifying potential candidates, which teacher candidates show a desire and commitment to teach long-term in the partner LEAs. What other indicators will you use to identify teacher candidates? How will you market this opportunity to them? And how will you recruit high potential teacher candidates representative of the LEA student demographic? This question is worth 5 points. The third program requirement asks for applicants to describe how the EPP will equitably select quality diverse candidates from the pool of interested and eligible candidates to participate. The type of information we are looking for in this section include the use of any interview questions, assessment of persistence, recommendations, rubrics, consideration of hard-to-staff areas, or other tools using research-based equitable selection practices. It is also important that you make a link to your needs assessment here regarding your choice of candidates to participate. For example, if your partner LEAs have a history of difficulty in staffing high school math positions, consider choosing a candidate pursuing a secondary mathematics certification to receive the stipend and train with that LEA. Consider how your process for selecting the candidates include those that are a best match to the needs of the LEA. This question is worth 5 points. The fourth program requirement asks applicants to describe how the EPP will support the teacher candidates seeking certification. We recommend that you name specific supports for potential career pathways, resource supports, and personnel support. For example, consider the following. What community-based development opportunities can the EPP and/or LEA provide for the teacher? How will the EPP and LEA work together to ensure that high-quality coaching will be provided to candidates throughout the year? What supports will be provided throughout the year to encourage and ensure candidate persistence and their desire to accept a teaching position in the partner LEA at the close of the program? The last program requirement asks the applicant to describe the memorandum of understanding in which the selected candidates commit to remain in the LEA for an agreed upon length of time as a condition of receiving the stipend. This MOU should also include the LEA commitment to hiring and retaining candidates with satisfactory program completion for that same length of time. You should also list additional conditions and responsibilities of both parties, as well as the number of years of candidate commitment. Consider how this MOU will encourage candidates to return to teach in the placement LEA. This question is worth 5 points. Following the statutory and program requirements, there is a section to request funds and offer a budget summary on pages 8 and 9 of the application. This slide shows an overview of what to budget on page 9, while the application requests that you enter line items into the appropriate cost categories. The cost categories are payroll costs, professional and contracted services, supplies and materials, and other operating costs. You do not need to have entries under each of the 4 categories. Each participant in the year-long clinical teaching placement is eligible to receive $22,000 in funding, with $15,000 being used to fund a stipend for the participant and up to $5,000 being used to fund costs associated with field supervision. And each participant in the intensive pre-service model is eligible to receive $5,500, with $5,000 going towards the stipend and the remainder going towards administrative costs. For the budget summary, you will need to list all of the allowable grant-related activities for which you are requesting funds. Please note, administrative costs can be no more than 10% of the total stipend amount awarded. This includes both direct administrative and allowable indirect costs. Additional requests for administrative or indirect costs on top of what is already built into the formula is also not allowed. The total amount requested on page 9 should be equal to the total amount on page 8. For a complete list of allowable and unallowable costs, please refer to the RFA Program Guidelines document. For example, conference travel and hiring a contracted evaluator are not allowable program costs. Please take care in completing your budget within allowable parameters. This accounts for 10 points in the application. In addition to the application, there is an attachment that needs to be completed and submitted in order for your application to be deemed complete. The attachment can be found on the Grants Opportunities page after searching for the 2020-2022 Grow Your Own Grant Program Cycle 3. There are 2 sections of the Pathway 3 attachment. The first question requests information regarding the quality of the applicant educator preparation program. Historical data should demonstrate high-quality training across all demographics, especially those that are traditionally underrepresented in the teaching profession. Applicants must show that the ETP has a history of success, uses a research-based instructional rubric to guide coursework and support, supervises field candidates frequently, and guarantees a ratio of field supervisor or advisor to teacher candidate at no less than 1 to 20. Applicants must also demonstrate that field supervisors or advisors conduct observation and feedback cycles at least 6 times per semester for clinical candidates, or 4 times total for intensive pre-service candidates, at least 2 of which includes an observation of a full lesson. These should all be formal observation and feedback cycles. The second question asks the applicant to describe the plan for partnership between the EPP and the LEAs. Be very specific in this plan, including shared accountabilities and divisions of responsibility for each party, including timelines and action steps. Signed MOUs with partner districts must be submitted with the application and will be evaluated at that time. Finally, all applicants must list all partner LEAs that will have teacher candidates placed with them for training and hiring on this application attachment. There is no limit to the number of partner LEAs per applicant, though the overall award limit is $499,999. The program attachment accounts for 20 application points. On the 2020-2022 Grow Your Own Grant Opportunities page, we have also provided several additional resources for your reference. The intention of providing these resources is to share background information, research, and best practices, which applicants may use to inform the design of their program. Of special relevance to Pathway 3 are the handout for partnering with LEAs, the MOU guidance, and the intensive pre-service guidance. As you review the additional webinars in this sequence, and as you design and complete your grant application, please submit any and all questions that arise. We will compile these questions and address them in a frequently asked questions document. The deadline to submit questions is October 11, 2019. The frequently asked questions document will be posted to the Grow Your Own Grant Opportunities page on October 21st, 2019. We highly encourage you to view the Grow Your Own Overview video. In addition, you may find it beneficial to watch the Education and Training Course video if you plan to earn priority points for having LEA high schools implement education and training programs. Finally, we also encourage you to view Pathway 1 and Pathway 2 videos because you may be contacted by an LEA or ESC who is interested in partnering with an EPP for their program. All videos will provide additional information that will strengthen your proposal. Thank you, and we look forward to receiving your grant application.